what you just said about religion.
Yes.
Basically, I mean, it's a gigantic guilt mechanism.
Yes, it is.
So that what I wonder is, let's assume that the foundation of how the earth came together, let's say it was an act of love. So I wonder why the conscious mind of the people has created that control instrument.
Well, there are many levels to the potential or the possibility to that story. One of them is that the Lord of this quadrant, this part of our galaxy, our universe, has personality, has some of those qualities that humans have that may be a part of the evolution or the form of humans that have taken on those kinds of aspects. Mine, I am the Lord. You will notice in the Bible that in the Quran there are many references that say the Lord, mine. You know, along with that, we have to recognize, if we look at it historically, that the whole concept of God came from primordial times and became a part of who had the power and who got the most and who was special. And so along with all of the evolution of that kind of individuation or sense of self and this massive power that was separate from you, came the conversation of how do you please that power. Because initially it was the god of rain and the god of the volcano and the god of fire and the god of earth or the goddesses of this or that. And so to survive, we needed just so much rain. We didn't need the earthquakes, we didn't need this. And so we got into the pattern of, how can I please this god? And the shaman came along and created rituals. As they created rituals, blame came into form. Because if they said a ritual or did something, sacrifices, and they didn't get what they wanted, then the shaman could be blamed. So the shaman said, you have displeased God. You are at fault. So all of that blame and guilt and fault came into being. And then as we organized into religions and we grew from tribes into nations, we simply amplified that. And it all had to pass through the cultures of humans at that time, if we look at it historically. So from the beginning of time, there were very stylized perspectives of who was whom in a tribe, who had which power, who got to do what. And so then it was, how do you teach your children, how do you keep that place in the tribe? So you began to say this but not that. And we have always noticed that fear is a very good way to make people behave. And so that became amplified. And I would say that there's absolutely no religion, no formalized perspective in relationship to the God force that doesn't use fear and all of that controlling energy, because it's terribly effective. Our governments use it, our parents use it, our teachers use it. It's an element that we have sanctioned. And so it's simply up to us to say, and thank you very much. We see how that has contributed to the organization of religions, of cultures, of countries, and now we're done with it. And the only way we're going to be done with it is through, as we were talking about, the power of the higher self. When you are willing to say, I will take responsibility for my choices. And if I go in the wrong direction, I will learn from that. We are intelligent. I don't need the outside world to tell me. So that is a long process because cultures change very slowly, partly because parents depend on cultures to identify their own value systems. So there are not going to be masses of people who rush out and say, oh, never mind, you don't have to do what this guy said. So it's coming. It is coming, but it will come as we see ourselves in a more expanded holographic way. You are not just flesh and bones, living, getting older, dying. And that's not who you are. It has nothing to do with your purpose. And as we illuminate these cosmic truths, we will stop getting older, we'll stop dying, we will stop asking God to forgive us, or anybody else, or forgiving anybody else, because that has nothing to do with cosmic law. Forgiveness is, again, a very convenient aspect, very subtle aspect of religions and relationships, which has to do with the good and the bad, and the victim and the victimizer. And it's time to let it all fall away. And so we will do it, we are doing it. But it takes illumination. That's why at the Light Institute we are very focused on expanding your sense of yourself. Where have you been a part of controlling others? When have you been a force in a religion? It needs to be released. You need to release all of the crystallization of that, because we resist what we have a frame of reference for. When have we carried unconditional love, permission, non-interference, angelic frequencies? We have. And so what we need to do is rebalance that. Let go of the part that we have played in those negative controlling aspects, and amplify frame of reference, lifetimes, incarnations, points of psychogenetic inheritance that allow us to simply carry on through the world. There's always a way through. There is always a way through. We can't imagine it. We have so much fanaticism on the planet right now. We can't imagine that there could be a place that we could come together. But there is. And that place is the basic elements of humanity. Who are you? How will you survive? What do you pass to your children? What do you care about? If we converse on those levels and we respect those levels, we could go beyond fanaticism. But right now it's a very convenient. For those who are fanatical, that's their way of identifying self and surviving, and wielding God as the biggest weapon of all. And for those who are afraid of the fanatics, it's a convenient, I would if I could, but I can't because they're stronger than me and they're more dangerous, and how can we live in this world? We don't even ask how can we live, we just shrivel and we either fight or flight. So our basic patterns have to be reinvented. It's an exciting time to be here, because who's going to do it? We are. We are. And so it's important to converse about it. It's important to pass those ripples out. It's interesting to me, as you all know, that I wrote a book laying out that progression in a way that I think even fanatics could follow along and maybe shift a bit. And it's very difficult to get it published, because cultures and societies, I think, are comfortable within their fear and their guilt and their anger and their justification and the finger pointing. But it will come about.
Because I just saw recently this documentary where they found these tribes in the jungle.
Yes.
And they've never been exposed to our kind of Western life.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that they have the same mechanism. And it really astonished me, because you would think they just always live completely with nature and in nature, that they have developed very similar control mechanism with gods like we have. And
because they have shamans.
It's
exactly.
The same,
They have the pattern. On the other hand, I remember when I was 15, so long ago, learning about a tribe in the Malaysia area of the world who also had no contact with the Western world, who had a fantastic way of living. They lived right next to headhunters, a very perfect analogy to ourselves and fanaticism. And they used the astral world to create balance. If you dreamed about a person, you would the next morning go and give a gift to that person. And so it was all based on these astral whispers of reality. So they had no crime, they had no dissatisfaction, they had no divorce, they had no punishment of children. They had no disciplinarian patterns. The only thing that they did is that they would look at whenever they went from their bodies, as we do when we're dreaming, into any astral perception. Could have been when they were spearfishing or something, and there was an illumination, there was a cross-reference to astral energy. And then they would see specifically, which I loved, basically what gift they needed to give to somebody to make sure that they were in balance with them. Even if they had a nice dream about someone, they would go and give them a gift. And, oh, you were so kind to me. Here's for you. And so in a world where someone is always giving to you and you're always giving to someone else, it's pretty idyllic, you know. People can take responsibility. It gives them a way of expressing energies and balancing those energies. Because we express our anger and we express our fear, but we don't have the next thing that comes from it. We don't take it to the next octave. Okay, here's the expression of it, and that will ripple out. That will create a reaction. And how are we part of the reaction? In their culture, it would be to rush over and give a gift, you know. And so there would always be that harmonizing back and forth. And that inspired me when I was very young. So who knows what we will create in the future. But those octaves of control are simply because no one actually wishes to, we find, or shall I say it this way, we find it more comfortable to have a scapegoat. We find it more comfortable to say, I would if I could, but I can't because of you or them, you know, because then we don't take responsibility. And instilled in our cultures has been, along with the fear of displeasing the God force, has been, what if we make a mistake? Then we will not be honored. Then we might be pushed from the tribe. Then we will not be chosen. Then we would not love ourselves. So all of those kinds of conversations have to be washed away. And I would that we did it ourselves rather than inviting some great catastrophe that we miss the point through the catastrophe. Through the outside world then influences us. It's a great time. So be present with, again, how can you move in the world without controlling? I think that the superheroes, the great leaders, have a quality. It's one that my mother attempted to teach me, that I'm still working on, which is to reflect to other beings their beauty, their intelligence, their purpose, their goodness. And when we reflect that, then people will actually do the impossible. They will be more brilliant than we could have imagined. And if you're controlling, for example, having people working under you, if you can snag that energy to reflect back to them that they have permission to be creative, they will give you things you couldn't think of yourself. And that's the beauty of collective consciousness, which we humans have not mastered, but the angels have, the galactics have, the devics have. And so we've been in this little closed closet for eons of time. And now we are beginning to touch mostly our fear of what if we were in tandem. We have that fear in relationship, in marriages, in groups, in organizations. And it's really time to realize that there's a way through our fear. There's a way through that difficulty without squeezing something like that.
Can you repeat that again, how do you do it?
Well, the basic element of it is to engage with someone as a mirror. To find the thread of their intelligence, of their goodness, of their divinity, of their beauty, of their whatever it is, and access it with them, reflect it to them, so that they will, in effect, want to be that. They will want to express it. Not necessarily for you, although that is always an element of that.
Yeah.
They will then become team members,
Mhm.
rather than the one you have to get up every morning and go, do it, do it, do it, do it.
Mhm.
I learned that from my 6 children. There's no, you can't really push them around. You can try, but in the end, it's not going to work. So, if you begin to, and I think one of the ways that we could do that, and we'll do this exercise in consciousness right now, is to, what we're going to do is we're going to ask our higher selves to show us someone who has a quality that we would like to have. Someone, they may not know they have that quality, but something that you see in someone else. Because that's the trick. This is the gift my mother gave to me, is to look beyond the mask, what we call the lines to piercing the heart. Look beyond the mask, what did the person do, etc., into the core essence. What are the qualities there? Even killers and terrible people have qualities that we often do not recognize because we are so busy just looking at the blanket representation through their actions. So close your eyes, take a deep breath into your body, and ask your higher self to show you someone who has a quality that you could mirror to them. So just take a deep breath and first just let someone come into your mind's eye. You might hear their name or smell them or see them, feel their presence. And then just take a deep breath and ask your higher self to show you a quality that they have that could help them to love themselves, to give their gifts to the world. And just for a moment, zoom into that quality. What is that quality that they have? And then you perceive that quality. Just imagine that you could amplify that through the frequency of light. And so ask them what color they need to amplify that quality, to become aware of it, to use it, to express it. Because light is the essence of our beings. And whatever color that is, draw that from the cosmos down through the top of your head into your stomach. And from there, seat of the emotional body, laser that light to them. And notice where it goes into their body. And just continue effortlessly to extend that light, which will activate and amplify that quality in them. And then watch and see what happens. They may all of a sudden look completely different. Or they may be visible, or they may get bigger, or they may cry, or they may become illuminated. You may see them in a scenario. Just extend the light and watch and see what happens. And take a deep breath and open your eyes. So of course, if you were in a conversation with someone, if you had someone that worked with you, you could simply say to them, you know what I notice in you? You have this quality. And now, I really want to see you use it. But will you share with us what was the quality that you perceived in a person?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
The quality of my wife, of seeing always with the bigger picture, and not using it.
Yeah. So again, she may not value that, because who has ever said to her, show me the hologram? Maybe all of her childhood and all of her life, people have said, pay attention right here. Do this, and don't let anything else happen. And so she sees it, but she doesn't really feel the permission. What was the color that she needed to amplify that color?
That's just light. Just
Like
light.
white light or
yeah,
a glass
maybe
light?
A
Or?
bit pinky,
Uh-huh.
a bit, a bit
Mhm.
rosa. A bit.
Good, because that's rejuvenation. So that allows for creation. And so, did you have a sense when you sent it to her?
I sensed it like a tunnel. It was like more
Mhm.
quite a strong beam.
Good,
Yeah.
and did you feel any difference in her? Did she
I
smile?
felt surprised.
Uh-huh. Wonderful.
Mm.
So, right there, in 2 minutes, you've learned something about your relationship with her and the potential of your relationship with her. She has no awareness that that's a value, and it's something that you honor in her, or that she could honor in herself. That is a wonderful opportunity for you to actually converse with her about that, so that she can feel that that's a value. Spectacular. Thank you.
Thank you very much.